Good evening. This is TV-7 Chicago Report Midnight. I'm Art Hellyer. 5 governors of the hardcore segregation states in the South met today in New Orleans, apparently to plan strategy for the upcoming Democratic convention in Atlantic City. But reporters who sought details came off second best in their encounter with the governors. ABC's Richard Wright reports from New Orleans.
An aura of mystery pervaded the meeting of 5 Southern governors here today. All the governors would tell newsmen was that mutual problems were discussed. What the mutual problems were was not revealed in the closing statement by host John McKithen of Louisiana, nor by Governor Wallace moments later.
We feel that our meeting has been beneficial, and we may well have additional meetings in the future.
Governor, United Press International carried the story that Governor Bryant walked out.
Could you say at this time, sir, that you're not going to Atlantic City?
Well, of course, this is all that we have to say today.
In a corridor session after the conference, Governor McKithen said most of the time was taken up with civil rights. Governor Bryant of Florida left before the joint statement, but not in the fit of pique as rumored. The key question to all Southern governors, will you attend the Democratic Convention, was answered in a chorus of, I don't know, I haven't decided, a direct quote of Governor McKithen. But underlying the evasions was a strong sense of lack of unity.
17 Negro children registered for the first grade in previously all-white schools in Biloxi, Mississippi today. They were the first of their race to break segregation barriers below the college level in the state of Mississippi. I'll have more news in a moment after this word from Bromo Seltzer.
Betty, did your father get in the car? Oh, there you are. How's this look?
Oh, please, don't even mention food. Look at the world's worst upset stomach. And a headache on top of it.
Oh, no, not today. The kids are counting so much on the picnic.
Well, don't give up yet. I'll take something for it.
Bromo Seltzer, when you can't afford a grouchy stomach. There's no waiting for a tablet. Bromo Seltzer's ready to relieve an upset stomach and headache and nervous tension that go with it faster than anything available without a prescription.
And you said never to mention food again. Oh.
Bromo Seltzer, when you can't afford a grouchy stomach.
Mrs. Lyndon B. Johnson landed in Jackson, Wyoming tonight on the first leg of a fun and politics tour of the Northwest. En route, she stopped briefly at Minneapolis. ABC's Chuck Roll has that picture story.
She was met by Governor and Mrs. Carl Rovag, to whom she confided that she has a pair of trousers packed for a 3-hour raft trip she is planning to take down the Snake River in Wyoming. Including reporters and photographers, 58 people are traveling with Mrs. Johnson on her Land and People Western tour, which also includes a bit of politics, Ladybird style. And for those who like to speculate on such things, her greeting to Mrs. Hubert Humphrey and the Senator's 2 grandchildren, Vicki Lynn and Jill Solomonson, was especially warm.
The president himself apparently is keeping hands off the Senate race in New York State, where Attorney General Robert Kennedy is being boomed as a candidate. Kennedy's decision about whether to run is expected to be announced next week. 4 key Democratic senators have introduced an optional plan for health care for the elderly to be financed under Social Security. It would give beneficiaries a choice between a sizable increase in cash benefits or a small increase plus a health care plan. It may come up for vote next week. Senator James Pearson of Kansas said in Washington today that the sale of controlling interest in the New York Yankees to the Columbia Broadcasting System merits inquiry. What he had in mind, presumably, was something of an antitrust nature, although certain sports ventures are exempt. The Sox' Arthur Allen was one of the 2 franchise holders who voted against that sale. Reporter Everett Aspinwall asked him whether American League teams would be adversely affected by this deal.
I think it's possible that they could be, and I think that the owners should have an opportunity, should have had, I should say, an opportunity to examine the potentials here, the business risks that are involved, so that they could come to a proper conclusion with respect to the propriety of this sale.
Do you have any support in your opposition from other American League franchise holders?
I haven't polled any of the other owners at all. I don't know that I necessarily shall. Mr. Cronin has said that the majority, or the 75% of the American League, has approved this deal, and I would see no reason why Mr. Cronin would not tell the truth.
On the international scene, these developments. 4 giant American air freighters guarded by U.S. Army paratroopers have begun flying supplies to hard-pressed Congolese army forces fighting communist-backed rebel bands near Bukavu. The Turkish foreign minister has voiced optimism about the possibility of Greek-Turkish talks over Cyprus, despite an implied rejection by Greece. Demonstrators protesting U.S. action against North Vietnam broke windows at the U.S. Embassy today in Vienna. Hollywood actress Ruta Lee spent 2 grueling hours in a Moscow police station before she and her 90-year-old grandmother were freed for their trip to the United States. Miss Lee had been trying for 8 years to get her grandmother out of the Soviet Union. Italian Communist Party leader Palmiro Togliatti is in grave condition following a stroke suffered yesterday while visiting a youth camp near Yalta. He is being attended by a team of 6 physicians. I'll be back with more news in a moment, but first this word about L&M.
Are you for a filter and a rich flavor too?
The logical move is L&M.
Yes, if you're for a filter and a rich flavor too.
The logical move. The logical move is L&M.
Are you for a filter? L&M has a modern filter, all white both inside and outside. And you get the good taste of L&M's rich flavor leaf, the good taste of soft-natured, longer-age tobaccos. L&M's the rich flavor cigarette with a modern, all-white filter. So if you're for a filter and rich flavor too.
The logical move. The logical move is L&M.
Mrs. Erwina Weinstein appeared in court on a motion for a new trial in the murder of her husband, but she became ill, and her day in court was postponed until tomorrow. A new twist was added to the proceedings today, however, when Richard Maddox, who's being held for trial for his alleged part in the murder, suddenly declared that Edwina had nothing to do with it, that he didn't either, and that the real culprit was Larry Shelton, a fugitive. And Maddox says the last he saw of Mrs. Weinstein's husband was when he and Shelton got into a station wagon and drove away. The burned auto with Weinstein's body inside was found later. The wheels were put in motion today to call a special grand jury to investigate Chicago's wave of arson against restaurants, bars, and businesses. Now, according to law, there's a 20-day waiting period between the call and the actual seating of the jury, and this would take place on September 3rd. In the meantime, State's Attorney Ward's staff is filling out subpoenas for restaurant and tavern owners, union officials, and suppliers and provisioners. The grand jury investigation may continue as long as 3 months. More than 150,000 Chicagoans gathered on the banks of the Monroe Street Harbor tonight to observe the 7th annual Venetian Night. It's a big, beautiful parade of yachts, all brightly lighted, and demonstrations of various water sports. In all, more than 100 private yachts and military craft participated in the event, outfitted as floats. Now, as a backdrop for the colorful parade of ships, the mayor had asked that buildings along the lakefront also be lighted. They were, and it was a dazzling sight, topped off with a display of fireworks. Venetian Night on the banks of Lake Michigan. Sports and weather in just 1 minute after this very important message.
Tenderleaf tea tastes bright and bold, even icy cold.
I picked Tenderleaf tea, not bottom leaves with flavor weak. Just young, tender leaves at flavor peak.
Blended to taste bright and bold.
Tenderleaf, Tenderleaf, Tenderleaf tea. Bright and bold, even icy cold.
New Tenderleaf tea.
And here's another fine food product from Standard Brands. From fields of sun-ripened corn comes light, delicious Fleischmann's margarine, made from 100% golden corn oil, lowest in saturated fat of the nation's leading margarines. Here's why. Fleischmann's has almost 1 full cup of liquid corn oil in every pound, and Fleischmann's has the light, delicate flavor you want in a margarine. Fleischmann's, made from 100% corn oil, lowest in saturated fat of the nation's leading margarines.
In baseball today, the Cubs split a doubleheader with the Pirates. They should have won both of them. They lost the first 3-2, won the second 4-2. The Sox had a night game with the Boston Red Sox, and they came up with a smashing success. The score 11-1 in favor of our White Hose. Baltimore beat the Yankees 5-4 tonight. The Orioles remain 3 games ahead of the second-place White Sox. Los Angeles Angel pitcher Bo Belinsky has been suspended indefinitely without pay for hitting a 64-year-old sports writer, Braven Dyer of the Los Angeles Times. Now, there's a possibility the temperamental pitcher may be on his way out of the American League. There were fisticuffs, too, at the wedding of Cassius Clay to Chicago model Sonji Roy. One of the great one's minions clobbered a photographer who was trying to take their picture after a brief ceremony before a justice of the peace in Gary, Indiana. And Cincinnati Reds manager Fred Hutchinson entered a Cincinnati hospital today for treatment of chest cancer. Now, here is the weather forecast for Saturday and Sunday for the upcoming weekend here in Chicagoland. Weatherman says, first of all, tonight, fair and warmer, low 60. Tomorrow, partly cloudy and mild, high 80, low in the 60s. Sunday, scattered showers and warm. At Grant Park right now, it's 64. O'Hare, 52. Midway, 58. Humidity, 83%. And the wind is out of the south at 5 miles per hour. And that's TV-7, Chicago Report Midnight. I'm Art Hellyer. Stay tuned now for the action movie Act 2 Drag Strip Riot starring George Hogan. Good night.